Okay, so today is April 2nd, Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, which is the membership meeting for both gold and platinum users. So everybody's invited to attend to this meeting. And there's my email address. I think you all have that to send questions, anything in. And I received quite a few questions this time, which I love. Last 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was like almost no questions. So this is fun, and I've prepared answers. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to do these in the order that they came in. And these just jump all over the place. That's what this meeting's about, questions and answers, anywhere you want to go. So here's a question from Doc Benton, and he's not here yet, but that's okay.
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Okay, I
I'm
didn't.
here.
Okay. Oh, there's all kinds of names down here.
Yeah.
Deanne, Dawn, Starlene. Okay, I didn't scroll all the way down. Okay, great. Okay, so here's his question. I thoroughly enjoyed all your videos on R, T-test, Anova, and Ancova. Okay, so I just uploaded a series of 3 videos over the past, I think, 2 weeks on introversion, extroversion, and I'm now, from a lot of my research, using the R software. It's more sophisticated, you can do better things, and just taking the time and raising the level of our research. Please let me know when your R scripts will be posted on your website. Well, I've answered these questions individually, but I want to share the answers with everyone. I have already uploaded them. So just to let you know, if you go to the Astrology DC website, astrologydc.com, click on the usual links to YouTube videos, and this is an index into about 500 over 700 videos. I plan to update this to get all the videos in here. But you have all the topics on the left side. If you go all the way down to this theory and research section, and the bottom one, research-controlled studies. This looks very similar on your mobile phone, by the way. Mobile phone obviously isn't as wide, but it's a similar idea. And when you go to research-controlled studies, it'll open up all these videos on research and controlled studies. And at the bottom, I added the R script for introversion extraversion. I also added 2 papers that are referred to in the series of 3 videos. So if you go to this R script for introversion extraversion research, and then it opens up this page, it tells you blah, 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 blah about what this R script is all about. And then you click on the download, and it downloads it. Now it says .txt because I had an R script is .r. That is what it is. It's just a text file. You can read it in Notepad or anything else. But if I did .r, it wouldn't download. So anyway, it's called .text. You download it, rename it to whatever you want .r, and then you just run it. This is the code that you run. It probably looks intimidating, like, oh my God. But the idea is that as we develop these R scripts, we can then quickly adapt them and utilize them for any kind of similar research. At some point in the more distant future, I hope to write a program where you just pick the astrological analysis you want, or somebody else could write it, and then it will create the script for us. But anyway, it goes on and on and on and on with all this fancy stuff. And it creates all those beautiful graphs and all that information that's in the series of 3 videos. So that's where the R script is. Why are we talking about the R script? Why is it so important? Because R is free. It's constantly being improved. It's used at every university in the world. It's extremely powerful. There is a learning curve involved with it because you have to create these scripts, as we call them. But it looks worse than it is. And this was a very complicated analysis. And we can do really advanced things. This is where we analyze the individual variables, which means each sign against each other. It's just really fantastic. And this is Ancova. So let me review what Anova and Ancova are. What Anova, which stands for analysis of variance, each research tool is used for a different situation. So let me go to the notes and just give you a quick rundown of what Anova is. Anova is used when the predictor variables are categorical and the outcome variable is continuous. So categorical, so we want to see, do zodiac signs, or let's put it this way, are zodiac signs related to introversion extroversion? Like, is Sagittarius more extroverted than Scorpio? I would think definitely it is. But can we validate that with this wonderful data of 940 people with introversion extroversion scores and AA birth data, meaning from birth certificate birth record? Anova will tell us if there's an association, tell us the exact probability. And because the zodiac signs are groups, they're not, a continuous variable means like, how tall are you? Oh, I'm 5'8", I'm 5'9", whatever. That's continuous. It's like a large range. And categorical variable would be like male versus female versus, non-binary or whatever. So it's a grouping. And so zodiac signs are a group. So you use ANOVA. So each test is used for a different situation. And ANCOVA is used when you want to control for a variable that's creating problems. And one of the problem variables with the ANOVA, with this thing, is that older people are more introverted than younger people. So we can control the age of the people because it's a nuisance variable. It's interfering with our analysis of the zodiac signs. We can control for that with something called ANCOVA. And so I used ANCOVA to control for age because we had the age of the people when they took this psychological test. And that can improve your ability to find things, but there still was no influence of zodiac signs, even with the ANCOVA. And all that stuff is in the R script. Okay. So,
David,
yeah, go ahead.
I exported the introversion-extroversion data from Sirius, as a comma separated values, opened it in Excel, and I don't see, I see a lot of the astrological information there, but I don't see the scores for the iSync personality inventory.
Right.
Is
What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a video. I've got two videos I'm going to make, and then the third video I'm going to make, I've got lined up ahead of me. I've got two ready to go. I made the PowerPoint. Then I'm going to make a video that explains and walks you through this code, because the code by itself, it's a little hard to know exactly where I got these files from. So it says introvert, extrovert file from Dr. Fink, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to make a video that walks you through this. Without that, it's really hard to figure out exactly what I did. I commented it, you can kind of follow it, but you're going to get lost because, it's just not transparent exactly what I did. So I'll make a video within 2 weeks at most before the meeting in 2 weeks for platinum members, and I'll have that video made and it'll walk you through it. Off the top of my head, I don't know. It was kind of a tedious procedure of getting all that data, but I'll walk you through it. I had to try a few different things, and then I got something that worked. Yeah. Does that make sense, Doc?
Yeah, the scripts look great. It's a lot of the R I'm familiar with, and then there's some new R skills for me to learn about. So that's great.
Oh yeah, there's some relatively advanced R in here because I just had to use it. And
Mhm.
it took me a long time to develop these scripts, like days. I don't even, it was maybe over a week, I don't remember, because I had to keep looking up stuff and checking. It stretched my knowledge of R because of all the things. I had to take the scores and the astrological data, merge that data into a file, and then do fancy things like ANCOVA. So this is a pretty fancy R script, one of the fancier ones that I've done anyway.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, basically you just Google the information and play around. Eventually I got it to work. But I don't whip this stuff off. Like, it's like took some time. The more I use R, the better you get with it. But I'm still a little bit slow in it. Yeah. Um, but when it's done, it's amazing. It's like, did I write all that stuff? Look at all that, But yeah, you just kind of push your way through it. Okay, so that's the answer to the first question. Question number 2. The eclipse is coming up on April 8th. So everybody's talking about the eclipse. Do I have anything to say about it? So the question is there evidence? Is there something evidence-based about eclipses? And, some of you will know about things that I don't know about. What I'm aware of is there isn't anything, I'm not aware of anything that's like strongly evidence-based. Evidence is on a continuum from 0 to 100 or nearly 100. You just try to improve your confidence, and there's all kinds of little tricks and hundreds of different things you can do. It's not about black and white, oh, I found something. It's about increasing confidence that you found something. There's very clear rules. So everything is evidence of a kind. Anecdotal evidence of just what you're seeing with your clients is extremely weak confidence according to modern research methods. But you might get 1% or 2% confidence from it. It is giving a little bit. So the things that I'm aware of that are the most evidence-based is that Corey Varlin is an astrologer, and she's doing considerable work on the Saros cycle, the series of eclipses, and collecting extensive historical information. I don't think the book has been published yet. And Alexander Mzaragich has done something very similar of tracking these Saros cycles and historical cycles. The thing is, if you want to be evidence-based, you need to do something like what Zip Dobbins did decades ago in her book. What was it called? Progressions, Directions, and Rectification. This was done way back around the 80s or so. So what Zip did is she followed some politicians. Ted Kennedy was one of them. She listed all the major events in his life, like everything she could find a biographical information about. And then she ran the progressions and directions and just saw what progressed aspects or what progressed sign or whatever relates to every single significant event she could find in his life. Simply by tabulating something with all of the information, you've made a big step forward in evidence-based practice. Because if you don't do that, you could just be picking out the events in Ted Kennedy's life that fit what you want to see. So you try to do something to make it not so biased or arbitrary, like just list everything. I often tell people, if you take your last 10 clients or 20 clients and you document some idea that you have about what you expected by the ruler of the ascendant, if you think the house of the ruler of the ascendant does something, and you document all of your last 20 clients who give you permission to use it or whatever, and exactly what you asked them, how it was confirmed, how it relates. And we have a saying that if it works perfectly, we know you're wrong. Nothing works perfectly. So you try to do a sincere attempt at evaluating it in a table, a systematic way. That's all you have to do. You can keep doing the same thing you're always doing. Just be systematic and comprehensive about it, so we know that you're not just picking out cases that happen to work. So that is a big step forward in evidence-based practice. That's something that could be done with eclipses, to just simply document every client, what you told them, like your last 10 clients, whatever, some systematic and thorough presentation. These people also, Bill Meridian, they have exhaustive and impressive information. I think that information could be taken, adapted, and put into a tabular form to evaluate exactly how well it works. So you can do good research just by documenting thoroughly all instances of what you're studying. I have not seen that yet. The confidence we get from that kind of research is not as high as the fancy statistical stuff that we did in introversion-extraversion or we did with bipolar disorder. But this is not a contest to see who could get the best information. It's like we want to know about eclipses. It's a different topic. Some topics are harder to get high confidence with. But at a minimum, you don't have to use statistical analysis. You can just document thoroughly all of the cases, within some procedure that you have, and what worked and what didn't work, and what you learned from it, and what ideas you were not thinking about that seemed to help. Does that make sense? Everybody following me? So to answer this question, I'm not aware of anything really good in evidence-based analysis of eclipses, but there are piles of stuff that could be possibly adapted into a more formal, systematic presentation, and that gives us more confidence in what's being presented. Is that cool? Anybody have anything to add to that? We're all good. Let me look at the chat, make sure there's nothing there. Okay. All right. Let me move on to question number 3. Are we good? Some thumbs up, something, everybody there? Okay. It's a funny thing doing these things. You're like talking to your computer screen and hoping it's working. Okay. All right. All right. I see a thumbs up. Thank you, Zenep. All right. All right. She's good. Okay. Okay. Number 3. Okay. So this is a fellow who just starting into vibrational astrology finally. Okay. So let's answer this question. I'm doing them in the order they came in. They kind of jump all over the place, but that's fine. This is a question about midpoint isotraps. That's part of vibrational astrology, which, as you know, is the system that I use. A midpoint isotrap looks like, well, let me pull up one of your charts and let's see if one of you has a midpoint isotrap. Let's use Christopher Pridham and let's look at his midpoint structures. And what we're doing here is we're seeing if a planet makes 2 midpoint structures. That's all it is. Very, very simple. Well, I'm going to remove the ascendant and midheaven because they move so fast. We don't know if they're really there or not. So let me just remove those, the ascendant, midheaven, vertex. I'll remove the node also, just so we're using the 10 planets. It's kind of simple to think about for teaching purposes. Now, here are the midpoint structures in Christopher's chart. Does he have a midpoint isotrap? I just told you that a midpoint isotrap is just a planet making 2 midpoint structures. So this midpoint structure tells us, for example, that Pluto is opposition the midpoint of Venus and Saturn. So we look at his chart, Venus up here at 17 Pisces and Saturn at 9 Pisces. Well, they're both opposition Pluto. But what's interesting also is not only is Pluto opposition Venus and Saturn, but it's hitting right in the middle of them, between 9 and 17. How close to the middle, the midpoint, in other words, the midpoint between Venus and Saturn is Pluto? What tells us here? It's 56 minutes, almost a degree. So it's there. In vibrational astrology, we use 1.5 degree orb. Up to a degree, it's there. Under 0.5 degree, it starts getting, you really feel it. Under 15 minutes, wham, it's extremely strong. So he does have Pluto at Venus, Saturn. It's opposition. In midpoint theory, as developed by Reinhold Eberton and Alfred Witte and all kinds of other people, the idea is that there's not that much difference between conjunctions and oppositions because it's an axis. So anyway, and we follow that same idea in vibrational astrology. So whether it's a conjunction or opposition doesn't matter that much. What really matters is that Pluto is at the Venus-Saturn midpoint and it's at the Mars-Uranus midpoint, which happen to be conjunct. That's kind of an unusual situation. But Pluto's in between both of those. Let me give you a different example, just because this is unusual where they're conjunct and opposition. Saturn is opposition to Moon Mars midpoint. So Saturn up here is in between Moon and Mars. Doesn't matter how far apart the planets are. It's opposition to midpoint. And it's opposition to midpoint of Moon and Pluto. But this is a really good example, the Pluto, Venus, Saturn, Mars, Uranus of a midpoint isotrap. I want to see if I can find one that are not conjunctions and oppositions. Let me pull up Will's chart. Will, are you here? I didn't see everybody. Not sure if Will is here or not. Let me.
Yes, David.
Okay, great, Will. Let's pull up your midpoints. Okay, maybe this will be for teaching purposes. Yeah, this is better for teaching purposes because Will's Pluto is conjunct the Moon Uranus midpoint. It looks like it might be at the middle, right in between them, and it is really tight, 12 minutes. Oh, and it's at the Saturn Uranus midpoint. Well, that's because Moon and Saturn are conjunct. What's a midpoint isotrap is where the planet, you have 5 separate planets. So Uranus is at, let's just do the last 2. We'll just skip Moon, Mercury for now. Uranus is at Mercury, Saturn midpoint. Here's Uranus, here's Saturn, here's Mercury. It's right in between them. And it's between Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter and Neptune. So that's a midpoint isotrap. And what happens, I'll show you. Pluto at Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, Neptune. Let me show you what's going on here. I'm doing this quickly. A lot of you already know this stuff. Uranus is at Mercury, Saturn, and Moon, Pluto. I'm just going to do this really quickly. Doing a real thick line. So Uranus is between Mercury and Saturn. And it's between Jupiter and Neptune. I'm just drawing these lines. And that's a midpoint isotrap, because what happens in a midpoint isotrap is you have a lot of planetary angles that are the same. The Saturn-Neptune angular distance is the same as the Mars-Jupiter angular distance. The Uranus-Neptune angular distance is the same as the Uranus-Jupiter midpoint. There's just a lot that are the same. All kinds of resonances. So it's a powerful system. Now, there's a new feature in the Series 4.0 software where it'll list the midpoint isotraps and it will tell you what vibration these angular distances are. We only have an hour to cover a lot of topics. I can come back to that later and show it to you, but it's just a feature in a particular program. The question is, he can't afford the software right now. What do you do if you cannot afford the software? Can you get this stuff? And I made some notes, and it's a really important question, and one near and dear to my heart, because I want to see people be able to do these things, but some of these programs are not inexpensive to get these advanced features. Well, first of all, I prepared here, so I don't have to take a lot of time. And I'll save these notes in the description of the video so you can read it. But you'd have to have software that creates a vibrational chart, also known as a harmonic chart. You can go to astro.com and do that. And then you need a program that will calculate there's 45 midpoint structures, midpoints, sun, moon, sun, Mercury. And then step 3 is finding a planet at those midpoints. So step 2 and 3 go together. I don't know if astro.com will calculate midpoint structures of a harmonic chart. If any of you know, you could unmute or put that in the chat. But if it can, it would get us to this point. And then the last step is, when you find a midpoint isotrap, seeing what vibrations there are, that's not going to be in any free software or even most commercial software. So, I don't know exactly what the free software can do, so it might get you to step number 1, definitely, Maybe it'll get you to step number 3. I'm not sure, and I'm not even sure what all the free programs are. So I don't know if anybody has any additional information on free software that can do these kind of advanced things. Go ahead and let us
I
know.
can tell you that I was trying to get astro.com to work for students of mine that couldn't afford the software yet. And I found that one of the biggest problems with it, it really does not have a good way you can set orbs that would allow you to use our vibrational orbs in your chart. You can get a chart, you can get the planet positions, but you really have to put it on your own chart and re-aspect it.
Okay. All right. So it's not going to take us very far at all.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can't even get the aspects to what the orbs we want to use. Everybody's got their own orbs. Okay. So if that's the case, and calculating this by hand would be deadly. Step number 4 would take forever and ever. I mean, I can't even, probably weeks. I mean, that would just be insane. So you really have to have software to see the vibrations in the, or maybe some clever person will figure ways around it and build some kind of table. I don't know. But off the top of my head, it just seems like it wouldn't be easy. But sometimes people get clever and they think of ways to, to do it partially manually or whatever. Okay, but it's an important question. Not everybody can afford, or they have to wait to get programs that can do advanced features. Okay. And also goes over gets some idea of where some of the innovations in astrology are coming from, the things that we're able to validate so far in our research. As I show in the introversion-extraversion, we're having a lot of difficulty validating some of the popular ideas, and that's an understatement. We're going crazy. I'm going crazy trying to get any of that to work. But then when we use some of these new innovative ideas, I wrote this book on bipolar disorder. It's like amazing. We're able to build models that work. Okay. Now, he had another question. Oh, this is a good question. Another topic. It's actually related to this. It's very much related. Like, suppose we look at Will's chart and he's got Uranus at Mercury, Saturn, and Uranus at Jupiter, Neptune. Like, you have 5 planets. Oh my God. Where do you even begin to interpret? Well, we have some rules for how to dig into 5 planets. Because you have 5 planets, you could say almost anything. I remember doing Will's chart in a class, and I said he's probably interested in things like theosophy. And Will has, advanced training and education in theosophy. Do you remember that, Will? And yeah, he's probably put it in the chat. So anyway, yeah, so that was really amazing that you can say things specific. Well, this was one of the main reasons I said that, was this midpoint isotrap. This midpoint isotrap is very inclined to areas like spiritual, like high-level philosophy, but rather detailed. Why? Because Uranus at Mercury, Saturn, you can just take each midpoint structure. Uranus at Mercury, Saturn is a speeded up brain that just can't calculate fast enough, trying to figure things out. Uranus at Jupiter, Neptune is tremendously enthusiastic and huge. So if you just put those 2 ideas together, someone's trying to analyze in a very innovative way, because Uranus is in the moment. Mercury, Saturn does not mean slow thinking. In vibrational astrology, Saturn is not slow. It's not even inhibiting, actually. People have different ideas, but in vibrational astrology, we look at Saturn as like a knife that cuts through to something important. Mercury, Saturn is essentially scientific. It tries to find out what the real deal is. And people with Mercury, Saturn like things like evidence-based, like, they like to figure it out. Uranus means it's very fast, very electric, very radical. They often endorse alternative, they're the ones using acupuncture and, and Reiki and, any kind of new technology and evidence-based astrology. It would have to be evidence-based because Mercury Saturn is evidence-based. But this is radical innovation in new systems that actually work, not just repeating the same old thing. Take a look at those research studies with a new eye, a fresh look. That's what Uranus and Mercury Saturn means. Uranus and Jupiter Neptune means I don't want to look at the details. I want to know the whole thing. Well, that they contradict each other. But what happens when you blend them is it means the person gets into the details based on a large perspective. So if you study things like theosophy or other things, there's a lot to study, analyze about the nature of systems and how they work. And he's been following vibrational astrology very regularly, which also fits into this. So you can take each midpoint structure, and after a while, you learn how they blend. And what we do also is we look at the orbs very carefully. So the Uranus is at Mercury Saturn, 39 minutes and 26 minutes. That's fairly close. They're both near a half a degree. They're both very strong. The Jupiter Neptune's a little bit stronger. That means this is going to have a big, large philosophical perspective. That's essential because that's the stronger one. Yeah, so you do things like that, and you can also look at which resonances are stronger, but orbs are everything.
David, I think you tied it into that in harmonic patterns listing, I think number 8 is where you came up with some things.
Oh, yeah. Then yes, thank you, Will. That's right. We went to harmonic patterns listing number 8. Thank you.
I think it was 8 or 1.
Yeah, it's probably 8, because this will tell us.
Yeah,
Oh my God, this is theosophy through the roof. Yes.
yeah, that's what you said.
This is insanely theosophical, like nuts. This is really. And what did you do with? I'm not using theosophy in the narrowest meaning, but you've been involved in these kinds of things with considerable training, right, Will?
Yes, I graduated from Loyola philosophy. Almost became a Jesuit. Yeah, I've been studying this since 70s.
Yeah. So, yeah, he has,
and that's why, David, when Will Morris saw that pattern you just saw in the midpoints, and Will Morris really turned me on to VA.
Right.
Because, he said, well, this is really, really, really interesting.
Right. Yeah, so it's in a very strong 7 vibe, particularly the Uranus at Jupiter Neptune. So that means, let me explain this a little bit, is that when we look at this chart wheel and Uranus is at the midpoint of Jupiter Neptune, that means by definition, let me show you the image that I drew. It's easier to see here. This purple line from Uranus to Neptune and from Uranus to Jupiter, by definition, they're the same distance. That's what midpoint structure means. Well, this Uranus to Neptune is probably some aspect, even if it's a 17th or 19th or a 23rd, when the orb is very small, under half a degree, there's a good chance it's an aspect. And that means that this whole thing will also be in that vibration. And this listing tells us it's in a very, very strong 7 vibration. And so when we pull up Will's 7 vibration chart, we're going to see the Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune extremely tightly connected. And that makes it deep, often interested in ancient things, focused, doesn't like a lot of fluff and jumping around. So Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune in 7 vibration, it tends to be, you might say, it's a kind of spirituality. It's almost religious, like sacraments, like scriptures, incense, depth of understanding, mystery studies. So, yeah. All right. So when you're interpreting the 5-planet patterns, we have things where we check out what vibration it is that changes the meaning, such as harmonic patterns listing number 8 in this particular software, and looking at orbs. That's just a quick overview, just to let you know that if you look at a 5-planet combination, you're saying, yours is that Mercury, Saturn, yours is that Jupiter, Neptune, midpoint. Oh my God, how the heck can anybody interpret this? And your eyes glaze over. That's normal. That's what should happen. It's bewildering, but somehow through decades of working on this, I interviewed thousands and thousands of people in the 70s and whatever. You do something for 52 years, you figure out a few things, along with other people who figured out a lot of things. So gradually, we were able to sort through this and figure out how to approach it. But it's not intuitively obvious. And I would have never figured out any of this stuff intuitively. It came through the school of hard knocks of try this, try this, try this, interview another 500 people, and then the databases, and gradually it starts to make sense. Okay. All right. I'm ready for the next question here. We're at 30 minutes. Are we good? I'm kind of like blazing through this, but I can take a deep breath and slow down. Anybody have anything you want me to go over that I said?
Keep going, David. You're doing good.
All right.
Keep
You-
flowing.
Yeah, right. If you tell me to put my foot on the pedal, man, we'll keep moving fast. Okay, next question. I'm just going through these questions, and they're on a whole bunch of different topics. Can you review and discuss the differences between the types of astromaps? Well, we're all over the place here. That's normal. Some have solitary lines while others have shaded areas. Okay. It's like changing channels. You ready to change the music here? Let's go from interpreting 5 planets to astromaps. Okay, again, let's jump over to somebody else. Let's jump over to Christopher Pridham's chart. And and by the way, at the end of this meeting, if you type in your birth information into the chat, I will get that, and I will have your name in here for the future and pull up your different charts. I like to do your charts. It's more fun. So anyway, I've got Christopher here, and let's look at these maps. Now, if I go to AstroMap, this is the Sirius software, and let's do the United States. And we'll do, in this software, it's called No Orbs, Just Lines, and we'll do a detail map with major aspects. And well, that's a lot of lines. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of that. Let's go to just basic map. Basic map means just conjunction and conjunctions and oppositions. Christopher has more lines than most people, so it varies a little bit. So, in the United States. So what this is telling us is that if Christopher was born in Wichita, he would have had Neptune conjunct the vertex. The blue lines are vertex. And in vibrational astrology, we believe the vertex is very important. I won't go into all that right now. But if he was born in Wichita, Texas, he would have Neptune conjunct the vertex. In case you don't want to be thinking about weird things like the vertex that you're not used to thinking about, let's take the midheaven. If he was born in Atlanta, he would have had Sun conjunct the midheaven. The red line means the midheaven. Conjunction means conjunct the midheaven. Opposition would mean opposition to midheaven, which means conjunct the IC. But poor Christopher had the bad karma of being born in Watsonville, California, out here somewhere, and there's nothing happening. So there's nothing happening in his life. Terrible sense of humor. But if he was born in Atlanta, he would have had Sun conjunct the midheaven, and he'd be world famous. All right, being very silly, but you got the idea. Now, this means that if he visits Atlanta, or if he has friends in Atlanta, or he does business in Atlanta, he doesn't even have to go there. He all the time, he lives in Jacksonville, his consciousness is actually spread around the globe. This is now an idea being developed in biology, believe it or not. They call it quantum biology, and not in like woo-woo biology, but standard universities. They're talking about the quantum effects in the eye and how birds and other people, other living things are actually connected to everything. So he's connected to Atlanta with a sun conjunct midheaven. Now here's the question. Is Atlanta close enough to this line? Like, it looks close to me, good enough for government work. Yeah, I mean, I'll go for it. Atlanta, Indianapolis, nah, it looks too far away. So we're being very subjective here. And it's also depends on how far you zoomed in and whatever. So how do you know how close Atlanta is? Well, there's two things you can do. In this software, also Horizon software from Matrix and probably the stuff from SolarFire or whatever, you can click on stuff to get pop-up information. So we can click on Atlanta, and up here it says quick map for interpretation, and it will tell us what the orb is. So that's handy. It says midheaven conjunct sun, only 22 minutes. Let me close this window. So by doing that, I know, like 22 minutes. However, if I'm just scanning through this whole map, I don't want to have to click, oh, is this near Casper? Click on it. I mean, it'd be very tedious. So there's another thing you can do to see if this is close enough. And I'll right click, and that's what the blue shaded orbs are. How cool is that? The blue shaded orb, with whatever orbs it's using in the program, you can change those orbs and we can look at what they are. But with whatever orbs are set up by default, it'll now shade it. Totally awesome. So it should spread way past Atlanta because it's within 22 minutes and show that, yeah, that's good. And Indianapolis probably won't reach it. Maybe it does reach Detroit. Let's see. So I'm doing the same map, basic with orbs, except I'm using blue shaded orbs. And now it's telling me there's Atlanta, and it's spreading a little past Detroit. So it is reaching Detroit, but it's weaker. The orb's getting big. So the idea of the blue shaded orbs is you don't have to guess. Actually, sometimes you do have to guess because these overlap, and it might not be totally clear, but it is helpful. Where I can see that moon opposition to midheaven is Denver's pretty solid. It's definitely there. That's moon on the fourth house cusp, very domestic in Denver. How strong is it? It's rock solid. It's there. Whereas Billings and Rapid City, they're really not picking this up very much with, or at all with these particular orbs. So that's what the blue shaded orbs are. It helps you see how far things stretch. Now, when you do them to the ascendant, the widths change. When you do them to the midheaven, you see the width is the same. But when you do them to the ascendant, the width will change. Let's do South America, or let's do Europe, and see if Christopher has any of these lines in Europe. And let me do it first, no orbs, just lines, just to keep it simple. All right. So what I'm saying is that these lines to the ascendant, I'm going to remove the vertex lines. I'm going to right click, uncheck this box for vertex lines. So the yellow lines are to the ascendant. Now, is Mercury opposition the ascendant? Does it reach Bucharest? I assume it does. Definitely Minsk. But some of the others, I'm not sure. Is Sun opposition the ascendant? That's Sun on the seventh house. Ooh, is it in Paris or not? Well, what we're going to see when we do the blue shaded orbs is it may vary. Let me show you. I'll go to blue shaded orbs. Let's see if it does or not. Yes, it does. You see how it's wider up here? This is Sun opposition the ascendant. Way up here, it spreads much farther. And in fact, if I zoom out, I don't know what'll happen. And let me go down a little bit. Let me zoom out. I wonder if it keeps getting thinner and thinner as we head towards the equator. Let's find out. I think it does. Oh yeah, look at that. So I've zoomed out. So it's just the way the orbs are. If Christopher, goes to London and you look at the orb, you do the relocated chart and you look at the orb of Sun to the seventh house, it's going to be slightly out of orb of whatever orb is being used here. So it's telling you exactly what you'll see in the relocated chart. So the blue shaded orbs really helps. And I'm just pointing out that the orbs to the ascendant change at different latitudes. The orbs to the midheaven do not change. And keep in mind that the astromap, when it's done in zodiac longitude rather than in mundo, is exactly the same as a relocated chart. They are exactly the same thing. They're two different visualizations of the same exact thing. They're exactly the same thing. Did I say that enough? Should I say it one more time? They're exactly the, okay, now I'm getting really silly. So, in other words, if you
David,
do
are they
relocated
actually
chart-
exactly the same thing?
oh
Are
yeah,
they?
they're exactly the same thing. All right.
Okay, just checking. Just
All
give you
right,
the
thanks. We're a silly group here. All right. And by exactly the same thing, I mean that if you do a chart, the orb that it shows here, showing that this is barely within orb, it will be barely within orb. Wanda will be just out of orb. So that just emphasizes how important this is, because you're seeing what's going on in the relocated chart very exactly.
David, I have a question here.
Yeah.
We're looking at a flat map, but we
Yeah.
live on a sphere.
Yes.
So I think maybe this is obvious, but I think the reason it's not that the orb is getting wider, it's that the map is flatter as it curves away from the equator. So it looks bigger. Like Greenland always looks the size of a huge continent.
Right. Yeah, that's a wonderful observation. The flat map is a distortion because there's no way to take a globe and put it on a flat surface. So this is called a Mercator projection. And what we do is we exaggerate, Finland, Norway, they're not nearly this big, and Africa is huge. So it's all distorted in order to put it on a map. So it's distorting this to look wider than it is. That's a brilliant observation, and you're correct. But actually, it does not explain all of it. If you were to map it on the globe, there's still some variation. Which is a technical issue, but the latitudes does affect the number of miles. And another thing that's confusing is that if you look at a globe, the latitude and longitude lines get closer and closer, and it's very difficult to translate miles to what the orb is. So, when you're looking at the globe, you sometimes get this illusion that if it's the same distance, it's the same number of miles, but actually it's more miles towards the poles. Anyway, but you're right. It is getting bigger at the top because this is distorted to be bigger than it really is at the top. Good observation. Thank you. Okay. So, Sharon, did we answer your question about blue shaded orbs?
Yes, thank you, David.
Okay, you're very welcome. Next question. I won't fry anyone's brain because we have only an hour, so we're just blazing through this. Next question might be good for the next meeting, but we do have time to get to it.
Actually, my question was really when you're going through those, because there's a large selection. You had discussed once which one you would use under different circumstances. And so you just gave us a great overview. But what about the ones you didn't talk about?
Boy, you guys really are bringing up great stuff. I answered your question about blue shaded orbs, but actually, I don't use blue shaded orbs myself. It looks wonderful, but I don't use it. And some people do, and that's great. But there are other things. And really, let's stay on astromaps because we only have 10 minutes left or so. Let's stay on astromaps because this is actually almost like a prelude to the next thing. So I'm really glad you mentioned that because it's almost like telling something without the punchline. There's another thing to tell you that's so cool, which is this. If I right click, let's say I want to put in midpoints, aspects and midpoints. In vibrational astrology, we believe we have some evidence for this above and beyond just anecdotal evidence, but not a whole lot more. So we don't have huge confidence, but we have some confidence that midpoints in an astromap are hugely important. I really am surprised that other astrologers haven't noticed this because you can run all of the major commercial programs like the Horizons program from Blue Star and the feature in Solar Fire. They all have midpoints, so everybody can get them. It's not just the Kepler series programs. And all you have to do is just look at it, and it's quite stunning just on a personal, anecdotal level, how well they work. So if I add in the midpoints, let's just do Europe, for example. Let's go back to something simpler. Can you imagine what's going to happen? We're going to have a mess because we're not going to have just a few lines. So let's look at it. I'm going to add in the midpoints. What did I do?
Saying you would not use the shaded blue orbs in this situation. Or would you?
Right. Let's see what happens. The blue shaded orbs become less and less useful when you put in more and more of the things that we want to know about. I want to know about the midpoints because, man, the midpoints are just hugely important. I don't want to miss it. But I'm probably going to end up with a mess because there's so many of them. And we have a solution for this problem. Still waiting. Thank you. Help. This is miserable. So I can't see what's going on. This is not fun. I mean, I could a little bit if I'm patient, but it's pretty much covered the map. It's not pretty. And let's remove the blue shaded orbs. And let's just do the no orbs, just lines, which, by the way, will come up much faster. Whenever you do shading, excuse me, whenever you do shading, it's extremely slow because the program does, I don't know how many thousands of calculations to determine the strength that all these, anyway, it does a huge, this, bam, just pops right up. Oh, I didn't select aspects and midpoints. Well, it's still noisy, but I can see what's going on, but now I can't see how far it reaches. So that's kind of nice. Plus, this isn't even everything. In vibrational astrology, we want to look at 5, 7, and 9 vibration. The low vibrations in astromaps are extremely important. And we do have some data on this, like little pilot studies that confirm it. So we do have something more than anecdotal evidence to support some of these ideas. And now I have a total mess, at least for my taste. I'm not going to deal with this. So what do you do now? Blue shaded orbs are wonderful. I could zoom in. I could just do France, and that would work pretty well. And I could probably put blue shaded orbs in. But I have no way to get an overview of Europe. At least not a good one. We have a solution to this problem. You all following the sequence of problems here? The problem is with vibrational astrology, there's something happening everywhere. There's no dead zones. I mean, if you go to Paris, something will happen. It's not like, oh, there's no lines there, nothing will happen. There's something happening everywhere. We live, this is one of the premises of vibrational astrology. We live in an intricate, it's like a detailed kaleidoscope that's so intricate it just can't even fathom it. It's like take the most intricate Middle Eastern decorations or cathedrals in Europe or whatever. It goes beyond anything like that, or the most intricate music. All of that's created out of the intricate energy systems that we live in. So there's stuff going on everywhere. How do we unravel it? So we came up with another idea, which is this. Instead of looking at everything, I'll limit myself to a topic. How about like career? Or where would I be comfortable? What's going to feel like home? What will feel homey? And then I don't care about some of these lines because they're not that much related to home. So we came up with this idea of themes. Just do a theme and that won't be so overwhelming. Well, we're a clever bunch. Actually, it's not us. Other people had thought of this stuff and we just implemented it as well. I'm not even sure who came up with the idea of themes first. But anyway, I think it might have been in the Horizons program first, but who cares? It's a great idea. Let's do themes. So what we can do is I'll right click, and that is the treasure map. Some people find the name treasure map a little silly. Some people say we should just call it theme maps. I don't know. That's too boring. Anyway, whether you like the name or not, we call it treasure map. So some of us are a little bit childish. I mean, not me, but some people are. So anyway, what this does is you can click on friendship and family, and it tells you where you feel at home. And according to vibrational astrology, the 9 vibration is where you feel connected. You feel, wow, I like this place. Now, let me say one more thing before I show you this map. The very important rule is that the astro map tells you how the place will be different from what you expect. It won't tell you what it is. It'll tell you how it's different from what you could reasonably expect. The joke is, oh, I found the perfect place to live in the Atlantic Ocean, right? On a less obvious level, if you move to Paris, that's a lot different than Chicago, which is different from San Francisco, which is different from Omaha, Nebraska. There are differences, and you shouldn't be shy about what those differences are. There are cultural differences because people can end up having to live with them. You all follow me, right? So some places in America are politically liberal, some are conservative. Whatever. I mean, all this matters. Some are hot, some are cold. Let's look at the friendship and yeah, go ahead.
I have a question if we have time.
Yeah.
At one point, you had talked about the latitude and longitude of, say, Christopher's house when in some place he lived.
I talked about what? His what?
Latitude and longitude of a particular house. You didn't talk about this for Christopher, but
Of a house.
So in other words, you're not talking about a region, a state, a city. You're talking about a specific area in the city. Say their street.
Oh, yeah, I can talk about that. That was probably local space.
Yes, thank you.
Local space is very good for picking places. Okay, I'll do that next. And, we're basically pretty much out of time. So I'll wrap up with this. Okay, let me finish this. Friendship and family. So, and again, it takes time because it's going to do the zillion calculations to make this pretty shading. Oh, now that I can look at. That's nice. And it's showing me all this, the sun, the moon, Venus stuff, and also 9 vibration sextiles and trines. And we did collect data of people where they're comfortable, and it really seems to work. So what this means is if Christopher does anything related to Munich, Germany, or Rome, oh my God, it's going smack right through Rome. Assuming his birth time is extremely accurate. It's off a few minutes, it might shift it. Unfortunately, this stuff is very dependent on birth time because it has to do with the house cuts, moon sextile the midheaven. But anyway, assuming the birth time is highly accurate, this means that Rome is going to feel moon is sextile the midheaven and it's trine the fourth house. It's going to feel like a place that feels familiar. It's like, maybe I was Italian in my past life. It's like, wow, I like this. And, moon's connected to the fourth house and the midheaven. It's like, I feel like I could express my soul here. This is cool. Like and you tend to be
I love Rome.
Do you? Yeah.
Oh, of course. I love it.
Yeah. And people love you there. Like it's friendly. I mean,
Oh, it's great. It's
Italians are
great.
are known to be friendly. So you take a friendly culture and you put your moon sextile, the midheaven trine the fourth house, and hey, what do you want? Oh, we got a pizza for you, Ma. You're gonna love this. They're gonna, and oh, you love this.
I don't remember them doing that, but
Yeah, well, all right. But
they were everybody was nice. I had a great time. I love Rome. So
yeah. So the moon is there, it's going to feel warm and it's going to feel like a good place. Yeah. So, and Munich, Germany, now it's a very different culture, different place, etc. It's not quite as strong, but the east side of Munich, this gets partly to Sharon's question about areas, the east side of Munich, and these are big cities, so they spread out, all these places are big cities. So out in the suburbs on the east side of Munich, same thing that happens in Rome. So this is fun because it tells you comfort places. What we found out is people usually end up living in a comfort zone. These are like comfort zones. They may not be the most exciting, wild, whatever.
like, is it Venus passing through Greece there? Is that what
Venus through Greece? Yeah. Well, this one is way on the west side. This is actually.
Yeah, that's where the wedding was.
Oh,
My daughter's
really?
wedding. Yeah,
Oh,
that's exactly where we were.
my God, this stuff's crazy. So his
Yeah.
daughter got married here on the
Right there.
right there. Oh
Yep.
my God, this is insane. Because, you can even use the ancient symbolism, his daughter, Venus, whatever. But anyway, it's like 9 vibration. 160 means 9 vibration. Any number with a 0 at the end means 9 vibration. 9 vibrations is friends, family. It's called the friendship and family map. It's where you feel at home. Venus means it's beautiful. It's attraction. It's, the ocean is beautiful there. It's more beautiful to you than it will be to other people. It's just, and the wedding is there. It's the perfect place for.
It was amazing.
The father, this is perfect. The father of the bride, hopefully it was good for the mother of the bride and the father of the
It
groom.
was good for everybody.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of the others had something similar. But even having just 1 or 2 people, it's infectious. It's just, so there it is. These 9 vibes, in Vedic astrology, they can't even talk to you without doing your 9 vibration. They call it the Navamsa chart. So, it's just essential. Oh, Christopher's got it. If you look in the
There it is.
yeah, there it is. Oh my God. That looks pretty much like Venus 9 vibration in all of its glory. It doesn't get any more beautiful than that.
Yep, had the whole family there.
Oh my
everybody.
God. That was the sunset, I guess. They're not the
Yep, well, that was at the wedding. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my
that's
God.
the sunset at the wedding.
That's a
was-
classic.
Yeah, it's
Wow. Just whew.
very much that.
Yeah, just beautiful. You want to have a beautiful wedding? Bring in
Yeah.
Venus 9 vibe. And look at the big family for Venus 9
Yep.
vibe. People are showing up. Everyone wants to go to Greece, but people are actually showing up to make the trip there.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
it becomes a
Perfect.
really
It was
beautiful.
a great time, the whole thing. But
Life-
it's actually literally on the west side like that. That's exactly where it is in Savota.
Unbelievable. And
Yep.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's a beautiful event, and then it starts their life together on a perfect note. So just these things make a difference.
Yeah.
So the idea, to wrap up here, we're 7 minutes over, so we'll pretty much end here, is the astromaps ends up being the thing we use because it allows us to see these so-called minor aspects, midpoints, and we just limit to a point of view. Like, I mean, to an issue. If we want to know about vocation and career, I'll just do one more and we'll call it a night. If we do the vocation and career, again, these do take a little while to calculate. And it will show us the Sun, Mars, Jupiter stuff. So, yeah, have your daughter get married there, but don't start running a business, is what it looks like. But, you know, over London, oh my God. Yeah, Sun, Pluto, and Sun, Mars midpoint coming right through London. Jupiter's trine the ascendant in London. Oh my God. So that's a place, you know, if you want to start giving lectures at international conferences or
Yeah,
something.
do it at London, huh? Okay.
Yeah, and they have it in different locations, the AAGB and so on. But if they're having it, you know, anywhere along in this part of London, of England,
My people.
yeah. I mean, if you want to be, you know, the same rich and famous, like which would you rather be, rich and famous? If you want to be famous, go to your Jupiter line.
Mm.
Now, famous might mean you have a lot of friends. Maybe you're just lonely and you just, you know, you would like to have a church group, a meditation group, a yoga group, something. You would like to go bowling, you know, anything. You just want to have some activity. You'd like to have a job where your colleagues are talking to each other rather than, you know, so being famous, you don't take that too literally. What it's going to do is it's going to expand your world, and now you're interacting. And plus, Sun, Mars, kicking butt, getting a lot done with passion, Sun, Pluto on the midheaven axis, plus this. So this is a real dynamic success place. And of course, London is a huge, you know, commercial center. So things would really hop there when you get that many lines. So that's the idea, is that we limit down to a few things. And again, I want to repeat this, relative to what you could expect. If you have all this stuff happening in the cornfields in Nebraska, you know, if you're not a farmer or whatever, you know, it's not going to be as much social activity as any major city, but it will be more than you thought it would be, or that you could reasonably expect it to be. Okay, well, we covered a lot of stuff. I went on a rant for an hour and 10 minutes. Are we cool? Any last minute things you guys want to mention? Nancy?
I had a question about Christopher's daughter's wedding, which was that you were saying what a beautiful place to start a marriage and so forth, but it's not her chart. It's her dad's chart.
Right.
So can you say something about that? Like it was friends and family, so it pertained to family, but I just wondered about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it's what you see is what you get. I mean, it's straightforward. What it means is that Christopher's influence on the wedding is fabulously wonderful. Now, as the father of the bride, depending on, you know, how the family works and how it all, you know.
And the minister
Oh, he
at
was a
the
minister.
ceremony.
So you
Yes.
married them.
I married them, yes.
Yeah, because, you know, Christopher isn't.
Not only that, but of course we did her chart there first. We didn't even look at mine. So,
Oh, yeah, so her chart, of course, is good because.
oh yeah, we had the whole thing set to the exact time, everything.
All right. Right. Yeah. Well, Christopher's a minister, so he was the dad and the minister. So he's playing a huge role. And, you know, the minister setting the tone, you know, I now pronounce you whatever, you know, all that stuff. So the people that are guiding the activity, you know, Christopher's playing a huge role in this. So he's good. Now, he did the chart of his daughter and her husband, etc.
Yep.
So that was good. But if he didn't.
Jupiter was one of the things going through there for them. That was a big Jupiter place for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was a big celebration. So
yep.
But let's say, you know, she had like Saturn, Uranus midpoint, and the husband has Saturn, Pluto midpoint. It's like, you know, you know, everybody's flight is going to be late and everybody's going to be grumpy and the food's going to be terrible. You know, you'll lose weight, you'll come back thinner instead of fatter. So there's always some good in Saturn, Pluto, right? I'm being silly again, but Saturn, Pluto tends to strip things away. So, yeah, you're going to get what life is
It's really
complicated.
it's to me, David, it's like it's a very like when you're falling in the right line, everything tends to fit. And so we
Right.
did it based on both her and her husband's chart.
Right.
That's where we were doing everything. My thing is just like a bonus.
Yeah, yours is a bonus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a bonus. But
Yeah, that's true.
I
When-
didn't even really look at it until now. Like you're looking at it now, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was
So-
even better. Yeah. When you're synced up, things do tend to fall into place.
Yeah, they do. I think they just go together. It just
Yeah.
works out really great.
But if, you know, you have these things that are very challenging for the marriage, you know, I'll call it husband and wife, then that's going to bring in a disturbance. But you know, the minister and father of the bride, who's one and the same person, he's like totally cool and helping it work out. I mean, that happens, right? I mean, you know, maybe
Everything's
all
good
kinds
so
of things.
far.
All kinds of things are going wrong for the husband and wife, but you know, Christopher's just helping soothe it over and making it good.
It's
So
all good.
you're going to get whatever you see, right? And
Have you been to Copenhagen?
Christopher, you're asking Christopher?
Oh,
No,
me?
Christopher, yeah. Have you been to
Copenhagen? No, I haven't been to Copenhagen. No.
Because it was right above Rome, dead center.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've done Rome. I haven't done Copenhagen.
Yeah, because
they-
that's right above you.
I know. Like when we were looking at the United States map and a lot of things running through there, I have a lot running through New Orleans, and I love New Orleans. It's like I love it. I wouldn't necessarily want to live there, but it's just I loved going to the place.
Yeah, I'm going back to the friendship and family to
in
confirm.
Copenhagen, you're right on it.
Yeah, to
Oh, yeah.
confirm what Christopher
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Copenhagen is exactly at the same. I didn't know that. That's
I
pretty
know.
cool.
Well,
Exactly
I
the
gotta
same
go.
longitude as Rome.
You gotta go. You gotta
So if
go.
you're on a midheaven line, you're going to get a similar.
Not like I'm not planning on it. I'll go.
Okay, well, we are at 8:14.
David, thank you.
Anything else? You're welcome, Will. Okay,
Didn't you
guys.
make a Jupiter talisman too, Christopher?
I did.
Yep.
Yeah, for the whole
That's
wedding, I did a
interesting.
Jupiter talisman. I created that
How funny is that?
because
Yeah.
I had wanted not one problem with all that big family. I mean, there was almost 30 of us, and we were there for over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So then we created a Jupiter talisman so we would have no problems. And we had no problems.
Yeah.
All the places we stayed, not a problem. All the transportation and the different things we had to do, not one problem. We did not have one hiccup the whole time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that doesn't usually happen on trips because there's so many.
Oh gosh, no,
Oh,
not
no.
with that many people.
No,
And
not
all the
with- yeah.
shifts, all the different places we stayed, all the places we went.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
idea that there wouldn't have been a problem somewhere.
Yeah.
Very, very, very unusually good. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're cool. We covered a lot of things. If you're a platinum member, you come in 2 weeks. We have a little more time. We do an hour and a half. I usually run over a little bit. And we'll just.
Not you, David.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming. We have a nice big group. We have lots of questions ahead of time. And I covered more material because I actually prepared. Imagine that. So we're able to cover a lot of stuff. Okay, thank you so much. God bless.
Thanks, David. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
David.